So in my last video, I was doing a little Reddit reading, and I read a couple of posts from the subreddit of D&D Next. I thought, because I don't have a lot of time right now, I'm going to just continue with this Reddit reading for a few days, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to get my next video up on the Bard. But last time I did some reading, some posts from the D&D, from the subreddit D&D Next. This time I will be doing a few posts from the group just titled Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get into it. Okay, here we go. The D&D, Dungeons and Dragons subreddit. I just want to point out the previous video was D&D Next, which is almost exclusively 5th edition. Cute name for a Raven familiar. Let us take a look. I'm just curious. Let's see how long. Oh, not too long, so I'm creating a Scourge Radiant Consumption Aasimar Psi Warrior that is a monster hunter for my ongoing Curse of Strahd campaign. Her name is Volka Stormshield and has been tasked by the giant god of thunder, Stranmos, to protect a party member since he keeps dying. She is a fairly serious monster hunter and is heaven-bent on smiting down evil wherever it happens to pop up. She has a cute Raven familiar, and I'm looking for some cute and hilarious names for my familiar. Interesting. Honestly, I'm not that interested. But there's only 2 comments. What are their suggestions? Well, it says there's 2 comments, but only one's showing up. Snowball is the only suggestion. Now, this is a recent one, so I'm going to ask anybody watching this video. I know if you're watching the video, give me some suggestions. I'm not really a Scourge Radiant Consumption Aasimar Psi Warrior. I tend to stick to the player's handbook because I like things to be simple. So I'm not even sure what they're talking about there. I mean, I know the basic idea, but I don't know the details of these class descriptors here. So I'm just going to leave it. Let's see. Engage in a D&D subreddit focused on sharing AI resources to improve your sessions. I'm not a fan of AI. I've seen some examples. Some of the art looks okay, but it's just as ridiculous as most fan art is. But having AI write backstories for characters or draw up adventures just seems lazy. It's a growing fad, but it just seems lazy to me that you can't come up with your own stuff. Do you lack the imagination to come up with stuff? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's taking the effort out of the game, in my opinion. There's no longer any effort to playing. So we're not going to bother reading that. Have any of you completed the Dungeon of the Mad Mage Adventurer? No, I have never played that particular campaign, that particular module, so let's skip that one. 40,000 Space Marine stats. No thanks. Let's see. DMing question. I need help in a tavern. This might look... These are all very recent posts here. I'm going to look at this one, then we'll see if we can't get some more posts that have more comments on them, because this doesn't have any comments on it. But let's see what they're saying. I am going to write a one-shot. The idea is that the party has to take care of a tavern instead of an exciting adventure, just one evening babysitting the tavern. But everything goes wrong, the vegetables becoming magically evil, and the group has to fight them. Goblins looking for trouble, something burns, maybe an inspector goes in. What are your best ideas of things that can go wrong or is a problem the group has to solve? I like this idea. Not all D&D adventures need to be out in the wilds, dungeon delving. You can have nice, interesting little adventures right in the tavern. And I like this idea. They're going to take over running the tavern for a day, and goblin marauders come through. The wizard that lives out back has a malfunction that brings all the fruit, all the vegetables to life, whatever. This would actually be, in my opinion, a very fun adventure to play. I could come up with several ideas on this. And again, if you're watching, give me an idea. I might just borrow this for my game and give me some ideas and we'll see how it goes. If I get any ideas, maybe if I do get ideas, I will try to run that in a session in my game in the next month and report back how it went. How's that? Let's try that. But let us go back And instead of looking at new posts, let's come up here and look at hot posts. Anything good? I think my new glass dice may be weighted. How can I check? Not really interested there. Let's see. As a DM, would you warn a first-time player that their character is terribly built? Let's look at this. 393 comments, but I doubt we'll read all of those. So let's look at this as our final little piece in this particular video. Let's see. I'm aware it's perfectly normal for a first ever character to be bad. I had myself a lot of bad characters and I enjoyed them, and I don't want to ruin the fun and freedom of character building by acting like a know-it-all control freak DM. But I'm genuinely afraid that they might not enjoy anything because of their character not being able to do anything. I've seen it before in a previous campaign, a player getting irritated seeing others doing crazy stuff while being unable to accomplish anything to the point of getting bored and showing up and quit D&D as a whole. I think that was supposed to be stopping, but they left a P out. How would you handle this? See, that's going to depend on the group. This is something that would depend on the player and depend on the rest of depend on all the players involved. I don't think there is a bad character, depending on how you play. I've had characters with horrible ability scores go in, do almost nothing while everybody else is doing everything. But the one time that I was able to do something became a major thing because my character was not good at most anything. And so when I did do something, even though the numbers said I shouldn't have been able to, but I rolled really good, and everybody else had gotten mediocre rolls and hadn't really, so there, depending on how you want to play the game, is how bad a character is. To say a character is terribly built depends on how you want to play the game. Now there are, generally speaking, if you have all ability scores that have a negative modifier, that's going to suck. There's really not much you can do about that, but that should never happen. In 5th edition, I probably wouldn't say anything, but after the first adventure was over, I would have them play their character for one adventure. When the adventure was over, and if they played through the adventure and they said they knew a guy that got bored and stopped showing up, that's on him. If you stay through the full adventure, then I would say, look, if you're not having fun, create a new character. That's fine. So play one adventure with that character first to make sure you're not going to have fun. I'm not there to tell the player if they're going to enjoy their character. I might not enjoy it. They might. They should play it for one adventure. That's my opinion. I don't think it's really possible to build a terrible character. No, you can do it purposely if you're really working at it. If you really want to make a terrible character, you'll make a terrible character. But you have to do it purposely is what I mean. You have to make one on purpose. You can't do it by accident. So you should always play a character for one adventure. Just like my mother always told me, you always read the first 10% of a book. She actually said the first 50 pages, which would be about the first 20% of most books. I would say the same. D&D, give a character one adventure before you decide you don't want to play it anymore. But after one adventure, yeah, we'll let you take another character. Let's see some comments. Let them roll with it, but establish early on that you are open to respecking or completely re-rolling a character if anyone finds they aren't having fun. That's basically what I said. I wouldn't do a respecking. I don't really like that either. You make a character, you play it, you don't like it, you make another character. We don't just change the character so that you'll enjoy it. No, you got to make a new character because we have the that character is now set. You don't want to play him? Fine. Make another one. I'll make him an NPC. So the original poster here says, yeah, I already told them it would be possible after the first session, but first session ever can leave quite the mark. I agree. The first session is a kind of a make or break thing. If people aren't having fun in the first session, it's likely they won't be coming back. In response here, my first DM allowed changes at any point in the game as long as it was done with the DM to make sure it was still mechanically correct, and the change was either crucial for stat corrections or it made sense story-wise. Basically, it was always an option as long as the DM was involved in the process and approved the changes we were requesting. Yeah, again, I don't like changing characters. That's just me. A lot of GMs change characters, let you change characters. I'm not into changing the character. You make a new character or play the one you have. This guy's asking what the build is. I'm curious too, but it's okay. Let's go down to, these are all just, there's way too many comments here. Depends how deeply they mess up. They built a high intelligence, low wisdom cleric because they got mixed up on what a cleric spellcasting stat is. Yeah, I'm going to say something. They gave the fighter decent mental stats for skill checks and didn't push as many points into physical stats as they could have. That's their business and their play style. I won't tell them not to do it. I probably wouldn't even say anything with the cleric, quite honestly. I'd let them figure it out. Anything else here? As a DM, I like to discuss my players' characters with them individually even before session 0. This gives me a chance to understand who, what they are wanting to play, and how to incorporate scenarios specific to their character. Also, if there are any concerns or red flags with the character they have created, we have a chance to talk about it ahead of time. I always discuss characters with my players before we start the game, especially since I play online. But even when I played in person, I would tell the players, create a character and let me see it. Online, on Roll20, they create a character. They tell me when it's done. I go in, I review it, I look it over, and I tell them to give me 3 to 5 sentences on a backstory. I don't want a complicated backstory. I'll work it into the game. We'll work on it together, put it in. If I see any issues with the character, I might bring it up, but generally only if they make a mistake in putting if they don't have the correct hit points, or they don't have all their skill proficiencies chosen. Things like that I will mention. Or sometimes I'll even mention, wait a minute, you seem to have more skills than you should. Where are you getting them? And I don't say they have to take them away. I ask them where they got them from. And usually players will say, oh, I just made a mistake. And, I was doing this. And we have a mistake here. And so, okay, well, just fix it and we're good. It all works out. And so usually I don't have any, this problem doesn't usually show up for me. I actually rarely have had this problem. If you talk to your players before you start playing, usually just figuring it out, and especially if they're new players and they're asking questions, you should be able to avoid a problem like this. But if they want to stick with what they've got, let them. So I would mention it, framing it as trying to be helpful and giving advice, but after that, if they still decide to go with it, let them sink or swim. That is more or less what I'm saying, although I probably wouldn't even offer them friendly advice unless they asked for it. If they asked me if I thought the character was good, I thought they had made a good character, then I would go in and say, well, if they make a fighter with a 10 strength and a 12 dexterity but an 18 intelligence, I might go in, and if they say, oh, is this a well-made character, I would go in and say, well, you are making a fighter, and fighters need more combat skill, and intelligence really doesn't help a fighter in combat. So you might want to think about changing that a little bit. But only if they asked. Only if they asked. Let's see. Yes, I had a player at my table who built their cleric very poorly, as in they essentially made wisdom a dump stat in favor of strength, but they never wanted to be in melee and wanted to use magic. They were removed from the table for other reasons, but before that happened, I offered to let them rebuild the character and help them with what they were confused about and establish what exactly they were trying to do with the character. They refused. That just sounds like a bad player. Last comment. As long as they put their highest stat into their attack stat, I'd let them be as unoptimized as they wanted to be. Nobody plays their PC 100% optimally. The first priority is having fun, and the only thing that won't be fun to a new player is missing attacks. Response from the original post. Thing is, it's a wizard without any damaging spells or cantrips, so no attacks to miss, I guess. In reply to that, I just wanted to check in. I noticed that you didn't take all spells. This is suggested. This is their suggestion. I noticed you didn't take any spells that deal damage. Are you sure that's the kind of build you want? It's going to make the game harder, but if it's the playstyle you want to try, I'm down to help you get the most out of it. If not, I have some suggestions. So not to put words in your mouth, of course, but I think something like that is perfectly reasonable and not overstepping. I actually have done that, where a character picked out their spells, and then I just very briefly said, you do know none of these spells deal damage. And some of them said, yeah, I know that. That's okay. This is what I want. And another one said, oh, you're right. Let me change 1 or 2 of these out. So a brief reminder that for a spellcaster, especially a wizard or sorcerer, if they don't have any damaging spells, then there will be some difficulty there. But just pointing that out usually will solve the problem. Let's leave it there. That is the D&D group. Video took a little longer than I was originally planning, I think, but hey, had a nice chat. So see you in the next one, and hopefully by the end of August, I will have my Bard videos up.